As the Christian population has decreased from the beginning of the 2000s, more and more churches are closing their doors. However, contrary to this flow, a church is building beautiful temples all over the world, and many people are gathering in this church. In the 1990s, this church official visited a local bank in the US to establish a branch church there. The bank official said, "There are already many Korean churches in the States. I'm afraid it's too late to establish your church here." However, the church official said with great confidence, "Soon, our church will be established throughout the US. All other churches worship on Sunday, but this church worships on Saturday. Only this church eats bread and drinks wine representing Jesus' flesh and blood on the Passover, saying that they must keep the Passover of the New Covenant. This church believes in God the Mother, though people say, it will be better if you don't have that doctrine. Of course, this church believes in God the Father too. This church is definitely different from other churches. Why is that? If you go to church, or if you are thinking about going to church, you might have heard of this church. Today, I'd like to introduce the World Mission Society Church of God. World Mission Society Church of God has been established in about 400 locations in Republic of Korea, and the representative church is the New Jerusalem Pankyo Temple. You can easily find the Church of God in almost every city. The history of the Church of God began on December 16, 1948, when the founder An Sung-hong was baptized in Naksom, Incheon, Korea. In 1964, the Church of God was established in Haeundae-gu, Busan, Korea. In the early days, it was a small house church, but as a result of walking the path provided by the Bible, it has grown explosively since the 1990s. Now the church has been established in all major cities throughout the world. Sertung, Nepal, in the Himalayas. Taruma in Brazil, the Amazon rainforest. Alaska, which is near the Arctic. Ushuaia in Argentina, the world's southernmost city. It's in every corner of the earth. As of 2023, the church has 7,500 locations in 175 countries. It has become the church on which the sun never sets. How was the Church of God able to grow into a global church in such a short period of time? There may be many factors behind its stunning growth. The first factor is that the church is following the Bible. There's another factor that's most important, but I'll tell you about it at the end. In the beginning, the Church of God was very poor. There were 4 churches in the 1970s and 13 churches in the 1980s. All those churches were small house churches. They were in a very difficult situation. In those days, the founder An Sung-hong said with confidence, "Our church will surely be established all over the world." However, even the church members didn't believe it fully. It was unimaginable for them, who worshipped in tiny rooms, to believe that their church would be established all over the world. What would you do if you were in that situation? Wouldn't you stand on the side of the world and approach the doctrines you are familiar with? However, the Church of God didn't choose that path. Generally, churches worship on Sunday, calling it the Lord's Day, and celebrate Christmas on December 25th, right? However, that is not the case for this church. The Church of God keeps the Sabbath on Saturday and the Passover every year. Why is that? It's because they are following the Bible. Take a look at these buildings of the Church of God. Do they look like church buildings? Not really. What is the difference? No cross is seen in the Church of God. People wonder about this when they visit the church for the first time. Why doesn't the Church of God set up the cross? It's because they are following the Bible. Some people say, shouldn't the Church of God too worship on Sunday? Is the Passover important? Isn't everything good as long as people like it? However, the church said in an interview, the standard to distinguish the good from the evil, the truth from falsehood, is the Bible, not the viewpoints of people. The Church of God walked the correct path suggested by the Bible and met a bright moment of leap. In the 1980s, there were only 13 churches, but the church began to grow rapidly. In 1988, the number of registered members reached 10,000. In 1997, they began missionary work in other countries. By the year 2000, the number of registered members reached 300,000. The pace began accelerating. From 1 million in 2008, another 1 million in 5 years, and 1 million more in another 5 years. As of 2023, there are 3.3 million registered members. From 1988 to 2023, the number of members increased by 330 times, which is equivalent to an increase of 100,000 members per year. The church that used to worship in a house has achieved tremendous growth. Do you remember that I would tell you the most important factor of the church's fast growth at the end of this video? If you know anyone who goes to the Church of God, ask them, what is the best thing about the Church of God? Most of them will say, it is God the Mother. God the Mother is the signature truth of the Church of God. People say, the Sabbath and the Passover sound good. If only they didn't believe in God the Mother, it would grow even faster. Nevertheless, emphasizing their faith to follow the Bible, the Church of God believes in God the Mother, who is clearly testified throughout the Bible. If you want to know more about God the Mother, please refer to the video on top. Do you remember that people recognized its true value as it walked the correct path suggested by the Bible? People say, it is impossible to follow the Bible. No one keeps the Sabbath or the Passover. It is difficult in this age. It's better to give up on them. Peter and John replied, which is right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to him? You be the judges. Do you think all churches are the same? However, that's not true. Today, there is only one church in the world that keeps the Sabbath day and the Passover, following the Bible, and believes in God the Mother as well as God the Father. It is the World Mission Society Church of God.